Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of All in All with Alex. I'm your host, of course, Alex, and today we have a very special guest in the building, Miss Isabella Young. How you doing today?
I'm excited for our conversation, Alex, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to speak with you and your audience. And hopefully, some of the information I share will be of benefit.
Yes, for sure, for sure. I definitely appreciate you coming on today. So, can you give the people just a brief background about yourself, and then we'll dive into the questions?
Well, my name is Isabella Young, and I was born in Australia, and I left Australia in 2000 and lived in Southern California for way too long. That's when I got into a whole lot of trouble in a cult, and then I escaped. It came to Hawaii, and I've been here for 16 years, and really been focusing on my healing and recovery from that experience, and also from my childhood and other experiences that I've had.
Okay. All right. So let's dive into it. So can you share your experience of escaping from the cult and immediate challenges you faced, like as soon as like it's uh so like escaping it and then the challenges you faced once you escaped it, basically.
Well, firstly, I didn't know I was in a cult for most of the time that I was in the cult. I actually thought I was in an ashram with my spiritual teacher, my guru, and I was with a community of people, and we were all on a healing journey. And he believes he's the second coming, so we were all his disciples and there to support his mission of saving humanity. And that really fitted in with my journey. I've been on a spiritual path since I was in my 20s, having been raised a devout atheist. I then realized there was more to life than just what can be perceived through the five senses. So when I thought I'd found my guru, I was pretty excited about that. And we ended up getting married and had a child. So we were a family living in a community of people, and he was running the show. And it turned out that he was actually a very dangerous predator. He was a pedophile and a rapist and a con man and a liar and a very dangerous man. He's still operating now, and I just tell the short story. He had my son murdered to prevent being exposed as a pedophile, and that event that just like shocked me out of my mindset. And I went along to see a man who'd been the cult psychologist that people were sent to work through their issues with, and I never went to see him while I was in the cult. I was in for 8 years, but after my son died I went to see him because I was just desperate for help. And I walked in the door and he said, "You know you're in a cult, don't you?" And I said, "No, I don't know I'm in a cult. I thought I was in an ashram with my guru." And he said, "Go home and Google characteristics of a cult." So I did that, and sure enough, every single every single characteristic of a cult was I could check off, like charismatic leader who's the arbitrator of truth and controls everybody's time and money and partners and life, gives new names and isolates people from family, and then does their brainwashing techniques. We had to like sing to him, pray to him, bow to his picture, and then all the gaslighting where he would say that he said something which he never did. And that was a classic one that he did a lot for me, just messed with my head constantly. And so once I realized that I was in a cult, I knew I had to get out. And my family had known I was in a cult pretty much from the time I left Australia, but they never said anything because apparently the advice to people who have a family member or a friend in a cult is not to say anything so you don't sever their relationship. Now, if someone had said something to me, probably in the early days I would have dismissed it, but it would have been good to have a lifeline and to at least have a heads up, like to have some evidence, to have like photographs of him hooking up with, because he was hooking up with randoms all the time and going to the gym, going to Palm Springs, doing all, obviously just chasing sex. He's a sex addict. So it would have been good to have some evidence of that. And it wasn't until I was actually told I was in a cult that I realized that what was happening to me. So my advice is just let people know and find out a way to at least present information so that there's a different perspective, because the mindfuckery that goes on is so intense and so persistent that it's really difficult to see clear of that. And there's a lot of trauma bonding, like I said, gaslighting, and just blackmail and bribery. I was told if I ever left, my other children would die, and I would scream throughout eternity, and all bad things would happen. Basically, there's a lot of tactics used to keep people in cults, and it wasn't until I found out that that was where I was that I could actually escape. If I didn't know I was in a cult, kind of difficult to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to. It took me a while to leave because there was still a lot of, I said, blackmail going on. He wasn't going to let me take my child. He wasn't going to let me leave the state, which he was entitled to by law. But I think what happened was he realized that if he didn't let me go, he was going to have another death on his hands, because I was in hell. I really wanted to die. So once I got out, then it was a matter of understanding. Well, I learned about narcissistic personality disorder, and I could see that that's what he had. But more than that, and I think this happens a lot with people, that they're easily able to point out who has a narcissistic personality disorder. But then what did that mean for me? What disorder did I have that I was in a relationship with a narcissist? And I came to understand that I had codependent tendencies. So both those conditions, the narcissistic personality disorder and the codependency, are a self-love deficit disorder. They just manifest in different ways. So I'm looking for love outside myself, and he's trying to, control and get love, and that way. And so I realized I didn't love myself, and that was a huge problem. Got in relationships with other narcissists, and then I had to really get serious with myself and make a genuine effort to establish self-love. And that was by repeating the affirmation, I love myself, just over and over and over again, and doing mirror work, talking to the mirror and appreciating myself, finding things I liked about myself, and then putting up boundaries. I learned about boundaries. My mother was my first cult leader, the first narcissist, and I had no ideas about boundaries, so I learned about putting up boundaries and not taking shit from people, and making sure that if I was doing something, it was because I wanted to do it, not because I was doing it to please someone else or get approval. And then slowly and gradually, I established self-love. And then I knew once I got into the relationship that I've been in for 10 years now, that I was finally clear of that huge deficit that had caused so many problems in my life. And that was really the key to my healing. And then the other part to that was because my heart was so macerated, just broken, and I was really, really lost. And the way that I helped to heal my heart was to spend a lot of time in nature. So I live here in Hawaii. I don't wear shoes. I stay connected, unless the ground's really sharp. But I connect to the earth, so I stay grounded. And then I also sun gaze every morning, watch the sun as it comes up. So I take in all the different types of energies from nature, the wind, the ocean, the energy from the trees, and that's really helped me heal and recover from the cult experience.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
So how about this? Just to switch for a quick second, what inspired you to write "Putting on the Armor of God" and also "New Human of New Earth"?
It actually happened when I was sitting under a coconut tree, and I realized the importance of being actually on the earth. I could feel the energy that I was receiving, and then I thought I'd really like to share that information with people, because a lot of people don't understand that we We are human beings, we're spiritual beings, but we also have an animal body, and that body needs to be connected to the earth. We're part of nature, and being disconnected from the earth, whether it's from wearing shoes or not going outside or not leaving the city or not going into nature or living in high-rise buildings, that disconnection from the earth and from the energy of the earth, it makes people really physically sick and mentally ill. And you can see it. You can see how that's manifesting in the world, because people are disconnected from their basic nature, from human nature, from divine nature, and from nature itself. It's made people really ill. So I thought, well, I'll write about that. So I started writing about that medicine. I, call it the medicines of nature. And then what happened was all the scamdemic bullshit hit. And then I got all this information about why that was happening. And so I wanted to write about that and warn people about what was going on. And that was the putting on the armor of God, because we do need to protect ourselves. We are under attack in many different ways. We're under attack, like mentally, physically, psychologically, and there are ways that we can protect ourselves. So that was the first book. And then New Human of New Earth, which I'll be publishing in a couple of months, is a continuation of the first book that I started, which is lists of like hundreds of natural medicines, body technologies that we can use, and also spiritual technologies that are available, and they're free and they're safe and effective, and yet most people don't really know about them. Even doctors of natural medicine really don't really talk so much about just the importance of being connected to the earth, in nature, and receiving light, receiving sunlight. That's just vital. We're so disempowered when we don't receive sunlight. The fact that sunlight's been demonized, and there's all this fear of the sun protection, sun causes cancer. This is not true. These are all lies that are being fed to us to keep us sick and disempowered. So that's one of the reasons why I'm really excited about this book, is because it's got so much good information that can help people heal and stay healthy and clear-minded and powerful. We're being really attacked. Yeah, we can protect ourselves, and like I said, be empowered by all these pretty simple practices, from how we breathe to what we eat to what we drink to how the way we move and use our voice. There's all sorts of simple techniques that are available.
Yeah, I agree. So, how do you help others identify and escape from cult programming?
By pointing out where cults are, how they operate, and I think this is really where I've gone with my cult experiences, by being in that cult and understanding the tactics that cult leaders use to keep people trapped in the cult. I listed some of them before, like they do the brainwashing, where you're just repeating the same lies until you believe them. And then there's something called psychological operations, where they just do this, some kind of like mental games with people. Like different people in the cult were told that they were enlightened at different times, and that made other people jealous. It's just all this like mind fuckery going on. So I could see that tactic. I could see the way that people were their time was controlled. Basically, all your time has to be devoted to either earning money to give to him through tithing, or on cult activities. And so no one really had any time to think clearly, or read information, or talk to other people, or spend time with people with different opinions. You might be able to say, hey, that doesn't sound right. That sounds pretty messed up. And then there are the what was that other one? Gaslighting. I learned about that tactic, and that's basically that's more of the mind fuckery type of thing. You're told how something is, but it really isn't that way. It confuses the person, so you don't really trust yourself anymore. That's a common one. So once I was able to identify some of these strategies, I then could see how these strategies were being used on humanity, like on a global scale. I could see how there was all this like misinformation that was coming through the mainstream media, which is really just government propaganda. So there was brainwashing through that. There was so much repeated information, false information, lies. It was people were believing, and then making really dangerous decisions on that. Like the psyops that are in, the continuous, from 9/11 to the COVID to the, there's so many of them, like moon landing or whatever, however you want to go. There are these, what do you call, like events that are constructed so that people believe that reality is a certain way, but it's really not. It's not that at all. And then the way that people we're being fed these really quite dangerous food substitutes, those ultra processed foods, that really do a lot of damage to our bodies and our minds. They cause like cognitive impairment, but also cause cancers and heart disease and all those sorts of things. So then we're weakened by the food, we're poisoned by the food, then there's poisons in the air, poisons in the water. Sorry, I know this is very negative, but it's true. Poisons in the water, like fluoride in the water, is just basically what fluoride does is causes calcification of the pineal gland, which then makes it impossible for us to perceive anything really outside of just basic 5 senses. So we're kept sick, and we kept like mind controlled, and then just fed a whole lot of bullshit lies. So people follow along and end up suffering in a lot of different ways. So basically, from my cult experience, I could then see the greater cult tactics that are used to control larger populations. And that's been pretty bloody horrifying, actually. It hasn't been a lot of things about my expansion of consciousness have just been horribly shocking to realize, like, what's happening on a larger scale to people. And it's no wonder so many people are sick and suffering, because that's the intention, to keep us disempowered and dependent on the medical system, depending on government, still enslaved.
Yeah, and it's horrible for sure. You can just hope that at some point it gets better, because right now it's insane with all the manipulation and all the cult tactics, like you said, that are being used, whether it's by the government or whether it's by people that have a following, so it's just
that's why I feel it's important to talk about the fact that there are cult tactics being used on us, because without knowing that we're in a cult or being abused in that way, there's no way to escape or protect ourselves. So I think it's really important to be speaking about it, even though that I'm got strikes on my YouTube channel, and most other people who do speak out this way are limited. That's the way. One of the ways that we're controlled and manipulated is the voices of those people who are raising the alarm or speaking truth are silenced, or the doctors that are coming out now and speaking about the dangers of the injection experiment. They're being silenced in so many different ways. They're like ridiculed, and then just basically silenced, and some of them even their lives are taken if they are speaking out too much. And that is I know it's like, do I speak out? Do I put my life at risk? Oh yeah, I do. This is the hill that I'm going to die on. I'm going to speak out about what's going on. I'm not afraid. Either way, I know where I'm going, and that's to the light. I'm going home. It'll either be sooner or later, but I'd rather be in integrity and speaking out about what I know to be true, and then offering like solutions and medicines and practices and tools that people can use to stay protected and aware and empowered while all this shit's going on.
Yeah. So with them, threatening your life and things like that after you speak out, is that what you would classify as fear-based mind control?
Yeah. That's part of it. That's part of it. The other one is just using fear itself, just by this whole it's a virus theory. There's never been proved that viruses work the way that we're brainwashed in school to believe. So by having this idea of a hidden deadly thing that can be transmitted from human to human or human to animal, that can kill millions of people, take us all out. They said people, everyone's scared of touching other people, being in public places or not being protected by some kind of injection. So that's how people are controlled, through fear. Fear is probably the main tactic that's used to control people. Fear of jail, fear of starvation, fear of war, fear of losing your job, fear of not having a home, fear. It's pumped out every day. Just look at the news. That's what it is. It's just a fear pump, and repeated over and over and over and over again. So everyone's in a state of preparedness for the worst to happen almost. And especially the way that they use the weather now, we can see that where's safe? People that once lived by a running brook just had their whole lives taken away in the States. It's happening all over the world, where the weather is being weaponized and used to control people and take over land and create a lot more fear and suffering, because that's the point, is to feed this. I don't know who they are that's doing all this. I really don't. But they're non-humans, subhumans, anti-humans, and they feed off the lowest vibrations of energy, of human energy, like suffering, fear, anxiety, depression. And so those emotions are generated all day, every day through the television. That's a mind control device. It's not just an innate box that sits in the corner and spews out information. It's probably the most powerful mind control tool that's ever come through to humanity. So that puts people into a state of fear. It puts people also into whether they have to choose one side or the other. And you can see how the political system, which is another element in this whole control system, that works by dividing people. And it works extremely effectively. And along with the television, now we've got the cell phone, and people are now living their lives by relating firstly through this device in their hands, which is so unnatural for a human being. That's another mind control device. And this whole talk of people getting brain chips and all that, they don't even need that now. People are happily carrying their slave device with them, which gives them the information about the world rather than being connected to intuition or nature or God or a higher power. Now most people are relating to life primarily through a black screen, and that's very dangerous because they are not benign, and they're not just invented in the garage. They're actually very high-tech human control devices that put us into these states of, like I said, low vibratory states. And so it's really important to be aware of that, and then to be able to use the devices rather than be used by them, to take time away from them, to have what I call an e-tox, an electronic detox, and go and do human stuff, whatever that is. Go and cook, go and dance, go do gardening, grow food, walk in nature, walk the dog, pet the cat, play with the children, take them outside, put them in nature. The most powerful thing we can do now is just to be as human as possible. Go and help someone who needs help, because they're highly addictive. I just know from my own experience that I have to really police myself, because otherwise I could be on my phone all day just staring at a screen. And so especially we've got, 2 generations now who've grown up with these devices, who don't know anything else other than relating to life through a screen. And that's what's disconcerting most of all, is that children are almost completely lost in the virtual realities. We've got to basically what's happening now is, this whole transhuman thing is becoming like what I've called techno-humans, humans who relate firstly through technologies and screens rather than through the natural world.
Yeah, sure. I definitely would agree with that. It is, and it seems like seems like it's only getting worse. As far as with the technology, who's to say? I don't know. It turned out to get better, but right now the way it's moving, it seems like it's just gonna get worse.
Well, here's how I see it. While it looks like it's getting worse, the truth is that the reason why all this chaos is happening is because the amount of light that's coming onto the Earth from the galactic center, from the great central sun, through our suns, through the photon belt, we're being bombarded by the highest frequency of light that's been received on the planet for I don't know how long. But that light is information. It's life affirming information. And it's also shining a light in the darkness. It's exposing the evil, it's exposing the corruption. So now we get to see more of what's happening. And also those forces the forces of darkness that have been operating at when Earth has been more in the darkness, they know that this light, the light that's coming bombarding Earth now, is going to mean that the frequency of the planet and all of us on the planet is rising. And that is evidenced by the Schumann resonance, which is the vibratory frequency of the planet. It's increasing. Like it used to be 7.84 or something like that. Now it's been registered at sometimes 60 or whatever. And that means the whole energy of the planet is increasing. We're also now getting solar flares. The amount of solar activity that we get, that we used to get in, say, 6 months, we're now getting in a month. So we're getting more C class, X class, and M class flares just all the time. The sun's just, lights, geomagnetic storms. And they've registered the highest vibratory planet particles. Sorry, it used to be the God particle, but now there's another one. It's named after a Japanese sun goddess. Basically, the frequency of life on Earth is increasing because of the light that's pouring forth onto Earth. And so the dark forces know that, and they're basically just like trash. They're just extracting as much of their food source as they can because they know their days are numbered. The light, it cannot be stopped. This isn't going. We are going to go through a process in order to get to where we are living in a much higher vibratory state. So rather than living in a fear-based world, we're going to be living in a love-based world. We're going to be living where people are more caring, cooperative, and kind. And that's just going to happen. I don't know the trajectory of how that's going to happen, but it will. Well, there's no stopping the momentum that's started, and that's a lot more people waking up to the corruption in politics and the Hollywood and the like the monetary system, the police, all the corruption and just not in those systems, but of those systems. They're actually systems of control. They don't work the way we think that they do, and more people are becoming aware of that. In that, then everyone's vibration increases, and that accelerates this process that we're going through. And we just happen to be like right here on ground zero, watching it unfold. And the best contribution we can make to that is our own personal vibration. So we're not adding to the negative energies with anger, and not that we can't get angry, because there's certainly a lot of things to get angry about, but not to make that a constant energy, and make sure to stay out of anxiety, fear, depression, and keep neutral. That's great, but if you can raise your vibration by being human or doing activities that would raise your vibration, like sun gazing or being in nature, grounding, singing, chanting, dancing, being with friends, playing with children, all those sorts of simple things can raise our vibration, and that contributes to this ascension process that I think it's the cosmos really is going through, but definitely here on Earth where we're going through it as an ascension process. And that's been prophesied. We're moving out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, which is more about where everything's more egalitarian and groupthink. rather than not hive mind type thing, but, where we're more cooperative, and there's not this pyramidal power structure. And in the Hindu or the Vedic tradition, we're moving out of the Kali Yuga, which is like the darkest time for humanity, we're moving out of that into a new time. And it's happening. This is a paradigm shift. We are moving into another, well, they call it another dimension. This is like a third dimensional reality, and there's other dimensions after that. And we are shifting out of this heavy, dense, controlled, fear-based reality into something far better, far better for all of us, and not just those who are controlling the life on Earth at the moment. That's how I see it. I'm an optimist in that regard.
So, how about this? What are some common signs of narcissistic abuse that people should be aware of?
Well, and someone with a narcissistic personality disorder is ultimately they're selfish. So the world revolves around them. They feel that they're better than other people, that they deserve special treatment, that they're somehow better than other people, and that other people should be serving them, fulfilling their needs, and they have no ability, they have no empathy, so they don't really understand what they can pretend. They're very good. What they do is they basically create a false persona that they think is going to be likable and get them what they need. And then they get people to, it's called, they're flying monkeys. They get other people to come on board with that. And then they are able to control those people who are close to them, either by bribery. Like, for instance, my mother would keep me and my brothers and in control by threatening us with money. Like, I'll take you out of the will if you, whatever, don't go to university and do this. Or, like they use controlling tactics to keep people basically supporting them and believing in their way of life. They can use money, they can use effect, time, money. Oh, like I already said that. And they have, no ability to understand how other people feel. They don't really care. They actually really don't care how other people feel. They can pretend that they do. But the main thing that stands out for narcissists is they actually love to make people suffer, and they actually love to watch people suffer.
Yeah.
So
sorry.
that's, they're very dangerous actually, and they're everywhere. They're on the internet. They're in everyday lives. They're in politics. In fact, most people who are in politics are narcissistic. That's how they get their attention. They get their needs met, because they've been described as energy vampires. So they're actually trying to get energy from other people in all these different ways. They like suck the energy out of you. And that's a way to tell too, that if you've had a conversation with someone and you leave the conversation and you don't really feel good, you just feel like you've been almost like physically abused sometimes, then that's the best way to tell is probably from your own intuition and your own gut feelings. If someone feels that they're ingenuous, they're just full of themselves, like they speak highly of themselves. They often do that. They don't take criticism at all, and they don't, even if it's, you try and make it constructive or whatever, and they do mind games. They'll turn things around. So if you're in an argument, they'll be able to flip it so that you end up having to defend yourself, and it becomes about what you've done wrong. So when you're trying to point out, hey, I wish you could have said that in a different way, or please don't speak to me that way, they'll flip it as, oh, you're too sensitive, or it's all your fault. And they will never take responsibility for anything that happens. So it's always someone else's fault. They'll blame anyone else other than themselves, and they have no ability to self-reflect. They have no ability to look within and think, maybe it was me, maybe I'm the problem, and they'll always be blaming other people. So that they're the main things. Once I knew about this, it became so obvious to me, because, like I said, they don't really hide themselves very well. The conversation is usually about them, what they've done, They don't really care about what you've done. They can pretend they're really very good actors, but they basically have a black hole of self-hatred and self-loathing that can never be filled. So they're always going to be trying to get their need for approval and love and attention met by other people. They can't be alone. They always have to be out there trying to scam people. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I had muted for a second because somebody kept calling me. But I said, so basically, they're scammers. They lack accountability. They selfish. Like to talk about their stuff all the time. For the most part.
Yeah. And when I say scammers, they just play games with people. They manipulate people, control people, and that's the way that they get what they need to feel,
right,
to be able to get through the day. Because, like I said, they have a they have a bottomless pit of self-hatred. And the other thing about someone with a narcissistic personality disorder is that it's incurable. I mean, there are some people who, like, I've seen them say that they have a narcissistic personality disorder and they're healing from that, but generally they are incurable because they have no ability to look at themselves honestly. They have no ability to self-reflect, whereas other people would go, oh, hang on, that was a pretty fucked up thing that I did or said, and I really should apologize. If they apologize, it's not genuine. They will just do it because it's going to get them to the next thing. They will just pretend. And the other thing that they can do is they do this, what's it called, like trauma-based mind control. So they take people through these arcs of love bombing. You're the most beautiful, you're the most wonderful, you're the only one, you're the one for me, or whatever. And then the next, they can just flip, and it'll be a verbal abuse of, how horrible you are. And that trauma it changes the brain. So by going back and forth from these love bombing to hate bombing, it really end up really not knowing where you are, who you are, can't trust yourself, and then become kind of helpless and powerless and easy to control. So they use that tactic too. They often start off with the love bombing thing, and you can see people say, oh, he's, the answer to my dreams, he's perfect, he's blah, blah. And then months down the track, he's a psycho. It's typically how it works. They're very, very clever, actually.
It's kind of weird. Like, you see that on movies, but you don't. A lot of times, I don't think people realize like it's actually going on in real life. So they may be doing a movie about it, but it also people that's going through that actual situation in real life. So that's, yeah. I just, listening to your story is like, man, I hate that you had to, go through those things in life. Glad you were able to make it out and be in a better position now and living life to your greatest ability. Just going through something like that is definitely pretty horrible for anyone to go through. So, well, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're out of it and you're here today with us.
Thank you.
So
Yeah,
yes,
I just wanted to say on that I'm not a victim of what I mean. I've been in victim roles. I've played the victim role lots of times. I'm a master of suffering, but I believe that, and I know it's not belief. I know that what I went through is what was necessary for me to understand what I do now, and to become. You've heard before, to become who I am. I believe that. I don't have any need to get this ex-cult leader. He's still a cult leader. Sorry, he's my ex-husband. I don't need to get him behind bars. I know that he's already suffering. He's, like I said, he's a sex addict and he has a narcissistic personality disorder. So he's already in his own form of hell. So I'm just taking what I've learned and then sharing that with other people. I'm not a victim. I'm extremely blessed by what's happened and where I am now. I feel like the most blessed person in the world, actually.
that's good. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm glad of that because like I said, we're all about overcoming adversity and mental health. So, feeling like you're the most blessed person in the world, that puts your mental health at a way better level.
Right. Just that whole feeling of being grateful. That's so
Yeah,
good for mental health. Just being grateful for whatever it is, from the smallest thing to just watching clouds, or just taking a moment to just enjoy a deep breath or a bite of food or whatever. Carrying that attitude of gratitude, it's a real game changer. And practicing that as much as possible, whether it's just mental lists or writing lists or speaking, being grateful, expressing gratitude to other people. That's been probably, along with spending time in nature, the practice of gratitude's been really important in getting me out of my wanting to die every day.
yeah. So, what are some what are some misconceptions about cult survivors that you would like to address?
Here's a big one: that somehow that everyone who's got into a cult is mentally deficient. The idea that I know that when people find out I was in a cult, a lot of people, their immediate reaction is, that I must be really sorry to, fucked in the head. That, people have this idea that because you get in a cult, you're less than. Like, you'd have to be really a broken human being to get in a cult, which is kind of true, but it doesn't mean that I'm, any less of a human being. Getting into a cult, and the cults families can be cults. Relationship, you can be in a cult of one. A cult can be a sporting team, a political party, a church, like an ashram, an MLM marketing group. They're a cult, and like I said, there's a humanity is enslaved in a cult. So it's not about being a deficient human being. It's just an emotional wounding, really. It basically comes from what's happened in childhood. So we're searching for security or for belonging, for guidance. There's being in a cult doesn't mean being less of a human being. I think that's probably the first misconception. And also I think the other one is that getting out of a cult is what's not really recognized. I don't think that it's actually, that's the first step in the healing, but it's a long process. It's a long journey to unravel what happened. And then because you have to learn, I had to learn who I was. I didn't know who I was anymore. I had to find out who I was, what I liked, what I didn't like, what I wanted to do with my life. And one of the main healings that I needed to happen was like between me and God, because I was so fucking angry that I was in this situation and that I hadn't got helped out of it, but I had to do it myself. So that was very empowering. But basically the healing process is with relationship to self, relationship with God, and then, then how do I trust myself? How do I trust other people? And it's a very delicate process to get out of that high control environment and back into the world again, to be able to move forward from that. So yeah, the healing process is definitely, I don't think it's really spoken about enough. A lot of people talk about what actually happened, but then it's like, okay, then how'd you get back up again, get back on the horse, so to speak?
Yeah. What up? Where did it go? So going through that, how are you able to help individuals reconnect with their intuition after experiencing manipulation?
Well, for me, it happened through establishing self-love, because I think that's really broken in people who are in cults, that there's a disconnection there between the true self and the high self, in a way. That's the same thing. Sorry, there's a disconnection in just feeling connected to the self. So I had to reestablish that. So I had to learn how to listen to my intuition. How does my higher power talk to me through my intuition? And that's different for everyone. So I had to learn that. And for me, it's through my heart. I can feel things. I can also, I can sense things as well through my gut. That gut feeling. And then I listen to what's information's coming into my mind. And that's usually. I think it's like pictures. Hard to say. Like it's messages or pictures that don't really have words. I don't know how to describe it, but it's called. It's not clairvoyance. It's like clairsentience. When you know things, just know them, but you don't know how you know them. So that I had to understand how I was being communicated to from higher power. From, well, I call them my guides. Like my first husband died when I was 6 months pregnant with our second child. So he's around me. My son's around me. I can feel. I've got friends who've crossed over. I can feel them guiding me and talking to me. So I had to learn how to listen, and then I had to learn how to trust. And the best way to establish intuition and trust intuition is just to keep trusting it. So if you're driving down the road, turn left. So turn left. Just follow the intuition, and then that's because intuition is always going to lead us into somewhere, someplace, somehow into a higher way of being. It's always to serve us in some way. Even if it doesn't look like that at the time, feel like that at the time, it does. If we follow the guidance, then we get to somehow we get to a better place. And then the other part of the healing was, like I explained, about self-love, establishing that, listening intuition, following intuition, and then just letting myself be guided through life after that, trusting. What I really did that helped, and I've been doing this for a while, is I wanted to, and I've wanted to this for a long time, to be a servant of. I wanted to serve God. I wanted to serve a higher power. That's just, I don't know where, because being raised an atheist, that sounds so strange, because we weren't really allowed to even use the word God unless we were being rude. So now I've established that relationship. I wanted to serve God, so I aligned my free will with divine will. And that's been an ongoing process of offering my life and myself to be in service to God, to good, and then following whatever it is that I feel I'm being instructed to do. Write the book, putting on the armor of God. I could feel that was something that my soul needed me to do. Write the second book, and just keep following the guidance, whatever it is, from getting up in the morning, what do I eat, where do I go, how do I spend my time, to those other projects I said, like I'm working on the book. So I would say that the establishing intuition, following intuition, establishing self-love, and then aligning free will with divine will, and that's been, like, those factors really help to get on the right path. And connecting with nature too, spending time in nature, that's critical.
Yes. So before we wrap things up, is there anything else that you would like to touch on for the audience?
I think the most important thing that I want to say is, while it looks like that, and it feels like, and I'm sure for a lot of people, there's a lot of really dark, evil shit going on at the moment, just know that this is part of the process as we're moving out of, because it has been like this for a long time. It's just that it hasn't been so obvious to so many people that, we've been controlled and manipulated for a very long time. But now we're moving out of that, out of the chaos and confusion and the wars and the violence and all that. We are moving through. This is a process. It will end. There is light at the end of the tunnel. So to trust that, to know that there will be light at the end of the tunnel. There is light at the end of the tunnel, and that's where we're moving towards. So to stay in that knowing, and don't get caught up in all the emotional manipulation. Don't get caught up in all the government lies and propaganda and political bullshit. Like, stay clear, stay grounded, and stay neutral, or stay as positive or as joyful as you can be. And there's no limit to that. Raise your vibrational frequency at every opportunity, and trust that we are ascending. We are going to be new humans of new earth, and that's what I'm writing about. And many people already are, actually. There are already many people who are living in that way of life. They've already left all the bullshit behind. They just don't get to see them because they're not, all the systems that share information are controlling that information. You know, people who are, like we talked about at the start, right? People who are speaking out, sharing truth, are being silenced. They're right, and you too. What you're doing, you're contributing to the freedom of humanity by giving people a platform and a voice to rally. We need to stand together. We can't do this alone, and we're not doing it alone. And we have the other thing to know is that we have the support of countless beings of love and light. And what's happening on Earth is the focus of like I said, multitudes of beings of the highest vibrations of love and light who are here to support and help us and guide us through all this. And all we need to do is ask for their help and give thanks, even if we don't know how it's working or we can't feel it or see it, or whatever. Just trust and give thanks for their support, their love, their guidance, their wisdom, their light. And so we're not doing this alone. And that's why we know that this process has an end date, because we are the majority. We're the light team.
I like that. I
yeah.
like that. I like that. The light team.
Yeah.
So, I want to take this time to let you know that I appreciate you coming on the show. I actually wish we had more time because
right.
it's still more to unpack, but we may do a part 2. We may have to come back for a part 2 because I still have questions.
I'd like to do that. That'd be great.
Yeah, because I still have a lot of questions that we didn't get a chance to get to. But I think next time I'll just have it open to where we can actually go through everything at one time. I just been having these today. I know this is kind of off subject, but I've been having these podcasts today back to back. So I have another one starting here in about three minutes.
Okay.
But yeah, so I want to take this time to let you know that I appreciate you coming on today, talking a little bit about your story, talking about how you're also able to help people that are trying to escape any that are already cope escapers, or I'm not sure exact term, so I may be missing. But
cult programming.
Yes. So the work that you're doing, I know you talked about me already. I don't need any praise. You're actually out there doing the hard work. So the work you're doing is great. So we definitely appreciate you for that.
Thank you. Well, I can do my work because of you. You amplify that. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for all you're doing.
For sure. No problem at all. Like I said, we'll come up with a date to come back for the part 2 for sure.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you.
No problem. So everybody that's out there watching, you guys go to the show notes or the description. You'll see all of her information, whether it's her website, social media, whatever the case may be. So make sure you all go support her in every way possible. I mean, the work she is doing is amazing. So you guys need to go support. And if anybody, if some of the things that she portrayed as far as telling you about what a cult is, if you feel like that you're in one and you're trying to get out, reach out to her, contact her, talk to her about it. I mean, it don't hurt to have a conversation. Somebody has to start the conversation. So,
yeah.
So once again, thank you all. You guys have just watched another episode of All in All with Alex, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.